Hey everybody, I'm Ben Shipper. Welcome to my channel and welcome back. For those of you who have followed me for a while, I'm coming back after a long time. I feel like it's been ages since I've been able to put one of my favorite books under camera and just talk about it and share what I love about it. But it's something I've most definitely wanted to keep doing. Our son just turned 2, so my wife and I have not figured out the alchemy of getting more time, but we are trying to use our time as wisely as we can, loving him, spending time with him, and also getting our work done. And so consistent social media and most definitely consistent YouTube have, like, we've thrown that out the window completely. So hope you're happy with some inconsistent YouTube. But we're gonna look at Brothers Grimm story, illustrated. More important, I mean, everyone knows Brothers Grimm, and this is specifically from just Wilhelm, one half of Brothers Grimm. But Maurice Sendak is a huge name in children's publishing. And this is one of the most fantastic, I think, pieces of his work, collection of his work. It's like a gallery inside a bound book. But first, so this is the story I just finished, and it's going to be published from Dark Horse next year. In March, I believe, is the new kind of publication dates. It is called Joe, Death, and the Graven Image, and this is what we all hope is the final cover. We did a little bit of back and forth, Dark Horse and myself, and I really loved that process. They were very gracious and also challenged me to put a little bit more of myself into it. This is as close to final as we can get. Obviously printed larger for the camera here, and to put up on my wall to remind myself this will be published. And I'm working on my next book now, so it feels like almost like this didn't happen at all, but it's coming, and I appreciate you guys, your patience, and your just following me and being interested in what I have to share. So this book, I don't know, maybe I'm just not in the right crowd, but I just don't hear people talking about this book much. And apparently, this is a story by Wilhelm Grimm that was found in a private letter to a girl named Mili, which is why the book is called Dear Mili. And the family of Mili just had this for it looks like 150 years is what the back matter says. And so in 1983, they kind of trotted it out, and they said, we've got Hansel and Gretel, Snow White, Rumpelstiltskin, and Cinderella, and this is a new character in the sort of the Grimm universe, I suppose, which will be joining the ranks of those popular fictions. I don't think, wonderful sales tactic. I think it made it sell really well. It says that the first edition of this story became an international bestseller. I don't think that it had the staying power of those previous stories, Hansel and Gretel, Snow White, Rumpelstiltskin, and Cinderella. I read this book. I like it a lot, but it just does not have that staying power. And it's like, it is what it is. It's just a story to a young person that Wilhelm must have known from a family friend or something named Mili, and it's just a story to her. And it reminds me of sort of something similar of like the Father Christmas letters that Tolkien wrote to his sons and daughter. And let's say Roverandom, almost like these small stories that authors and writers have, and they write them just for themselves, just for their children, or just for the children in their lives. And I think that's what we're gonna see here in the story. But it is charming. But most definitely, Maurice Sendak kind of, you know, propelled this, I think, forward with his amazing art. And it's almost like he knew, like, he would sell each of these paintings for quite a lot of money. I actually don't know. I need to research that. But let's flip into the to the material. Something that I note throughout this is just the elegant design all over it. I mean, just the format and the way that Maurice illustrates to fit a certain format, a book. He's most definitely pulling on traditions of like illuminated manuscripts, and he wants this to feel like a book. The design throughout is really clean. You know, a lot of white space, and really just Squarefish is the publisher for this version of the paperback. But I just thought it was a really nice touch to have the letter that Wilhelm Grimm, you know, sent accompanying the story to Mili, and this is that letter, and it's got kind of a charming story within the letter, actually, well worth a read, though I won't read everything here. But this is a story about a little girl, and her name is not necessarily Mili, and it is a fairy tale, so it's sort of just like, you know, a small cast of characters. It's just a sweet girl and her mother, and her little guardian angel here. But there's a lot of like symbol in something like this. Like, it's almost like Maurice Sendak knows how to place elements in just the right spot to evoke some kind of iconic quality. And the perspective or the scientific kind of approach to drawing, you know, accurate leaves or trees, or the architecture of a house, or clothing, it all serves the magic of the square. Almost, it serves the magic of just what the image is, and all the things together. And that's just what I love so much. Like, he's you know, he's just giving us delightful things on every level. You know, from like, you know, kind of cartoony characters to really realistic dogs. And that back and forth is always there. You know, it's a kind of cartoony fence, but these are extremely detailed. And I think the detail is kind of something that I struggle with personally. I really like to simplify down and reduce elements, so much so that I sort of have trouble actually adding in detail, because once I have the skeleton, I'm like, well, it's there. You know, what else do you need other than the bare bones iconographic symbol? But I'm realizing the detail added to that really really convinces people that they're looking at something realistic, or at least it has that like power over people, I think, myself included. It's convincing. I think the convincing part is what I'm trying to say. So opens up, you know, beautiful mother with her child, 2 dogs, you know, everything's going well. A little foreboding in the clouds. So there's kind of a dark to light over here with this kind of burning edge of the cloud, which, you know, you wouldn't necessarily think anything's wrong here, but then when you turn the page, you know, you see, oh, there is something wrong. There's a war going on. And the mother quickly jumps up and she says, you know, I must send my daughter away, you know, from this terrible war that's coming. And lovely detail here. You see like one dog underneath the table, which is what would happen if you had a dog and there was fireworks and cannon shot booming above you. You know, the dog would most definitely go underneath the table. The guardian angel, which, you know, it's not seen by these people, but we see it. And it's spoken about in the text. You know, covering his eyes. And it's almost like a theater play, kind of like, I just love how illustrative it is. The mother sends her daughter into the forest. You know, there's safety there. And this most definitely is a fairy tale, and it goes back to the, you know, pre-industrialized world where, you know, communities and cities, you know, were not made in the forest. They were outside of the forest. And so the forest, you know, kind of, to the best of my knowledge, kind of represents this mystery space, this this sometimes good, sometimes bad, wild that is not tamed. And it could work out good or ill for anyone venturing into the forest. But the war is outside the forest. So the mom is like, well, you know, take your chances inside the forest. We all know you have a guardian angel is sort of what and her reliance really is on God. I mean, this whole book is actually very Christian, very religious. And the reliance of the daughter and the woman, the mother, are on God throughout the book. And I think, you know, potentially this is why in a secular country, in a secular kind of world, it hasn't had the sort of the staying power of, let's say, Cinderella or Snow White, though. I'm sure probably Christianity was in this as well. But the little girl runs into the forest. This is kind of a classic. Oh, I do want to make note. Sorry. My brain is moving faster than my hands, my mouth. I love this like refocus like on several characters. The ability to like zoom in and zoom out is wonderful, and it's like, I think it's really powerful for any storyteller if you can show the world as a character, like the flora, the fauna, the forest architecture. If you can show that as a character, you know, as we saw in this page, and you can also go closer on people and your characters and the humanity of it, and you can really get closer to them. You can bring the audience closer, where they are the characters. Going back and forth, I think, is a really powerful way to do sequential storytelling. And his characters, again, are, you know, they are cartoons. They are not realistic, but they are to a certain degree. There's a great balance there that he has, and just two eyes looking at each other. I feel like this is a really powerful vision. It's a really powerful symbol of communication, of love, where it's not a broken stare. It's a stare of passage, kind of. So, child runs into the forest, and this definitely reminds me of Snow White in the Disney movie. You know, running and being scared by all the, you know, the forest has really changed. You know, it's you know, maybe she's deeper in the forest, but really this scene is illustrated with all these jags and twisting branches and roots, and the different elements like birds, you know, giant birds, or, you know, at least closer to us. But it's all, you know, it's all serving the moment of this frightful run into the wilderness that the daughter is going on. And the sheer variety of like the forms that Maurice Sendak can like do. I mean, it boggles my brain right now, like just trying to think up all the different shape languages, like, and put them in order, but also in chaos. It's like a chaotic order. It's like, it's silly. I mean, if you just did chaos, if you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna scribble everywhere, or like act as if I'm just going to kind of with abandon start a picture, it wouldn't look as good as this. I mean, there's clear order to every element that's here, but he's done it in such a special way, in such a good way, that it feels chaotic and it feels foreboding. So cool. All right, and the 2-page spreads are there's a couple, I think there's 2 in here, and they're so cool, so exciting. There's like just a crazy amount of depth to what he's able to do here, and he's got a solid background here and a solid foreground, and he's reduced his lines to be even more detailed back here, and just give the hint of villagers and a village back there, some architecture. And I imagine these are, kind of bad people, or like people she doesn't want to see, or she can't see maybe, but she is deep in the forest here. The guardian angel is with her, and she has stopped running, and she calls out to God actually in this moment. She says, oh dear God, help your child to go on. So she has gone as far as she can, and she stopped amidst this wild and wonderful kind of darkness almost. There's like human forms kind of in the trees. I see sort of a leg and like a backside here over here, and there's like this ear and face, and really kind of creepy work in the forms. I'm sure there's quite a few other things like eyeballs and other things that we could probably pull out from the trees. But she wakes up and she sees the sun shining. She sees little fleecy clouds, and she says, rain falls. She says, God and my heart are weeping together. And she thinks, God is feeding his sheep with roses. Why would he forget me? So she started off again. So she's got, she's got some sort of intervention, by this angel, and the whole thing changes based on what's happened in the natural world. Rain, clouds, clean skies, flowers that bloom. It's night to morning in a sense. And she comes along to a grassy plain, and I thought this was pretty cool. The conception that she says, how bright are the nails on the great door of heaven. What a joy it will be when God opens it. So she sees the stars, and, it's a classic, say what you want for modern industrialization, but I don't think that it has produced quite as beautiful language or symbol as the old world, where you could look at the stars and you could call them bright nails of the great door of heaven. I mean, I don't think that she thought it was necessarily a classic door, and I think that's a misconception that a lot of modern people think, that her actual belief is that it's a door, but it's a beautiful expression to contemplate. And she sees the stars, and she notices there's a light down on the horizon, almost like a star, and it's actually the light from a window. And a really classic image, I think, a really powerful image of moonlight on the grass, coming home, just a a house not unlike her own, but one embedded in kind of nature, with trees and kind of crooked lanes and fence posts. This is probably my favorite image in the book. And she knocks at the house, and an old man opens the door, and he says, "Come in." And she does, and he gives her some water and some roots that he had gathered, and he asks her to actually cook the meal for them, and she does, and she adds a little piece of her cake. Her mother gave her a piece of cake and to sustain her in the woods for 3 days, and she uses a little piece of that cake to flavor the roots, and she brings it to the man, and they eat. The man has a little dog here, really, highly detailed kind of fur and dog, and this is great too, because it's as if this is the whole house, but he's showing the connection between the old man and the young girl inside a house with the moon. It's all symbolic. It's not materialistic, while at the same time having really detailed elements to make you understand that this is actually a real place. But outside of it is kind of this like feathery darkness. There's some trees. There's a moon out there. It is nighttime. It's a super symbolic image that is like super powerful, I think. And he says, I'm not sure if he says on this one. Yep. Okay, on this one. So he says, you're welcome to stay. I only have one bed, but you have it, and I will sleep on the floor or somewhere else. And she says, oh no, a little straw on the floor will be soft enough for me. But the old man picks her up in his arms and puts her down on the bed and covers her. And then she says her prayers and falls asleep. So it's a classic kind of motif, I think, in fairy tales, where if you're a traveler and there's someone usually old, and you help them and good things will come. Usually that's how it works. And I think that she knows this, and she, even though she's the one that's displaced, she has come from somewhere else and is in need of a place to be and to sleep. She denies that for herself to the older man who is her senior, and which, in this day and age, I would actually say possibly in this day and age, it's a proper thing to do. It's a sign of respect to someone who's older than you. But he's good, and you know this by the fact that he won't accept that, and he gives his spot to her. But the next morning, they wake up, and again, it's a classic like image that is non-materialistic, but full of variety and image. And you see the sun instead of the moon replaced. You see the dog here. You see this type of thing, which is kind of odd. It's a little piece of metal, I would imagine. It's kind of like this. It's interesting. I don't why that's there. I don't know exactly why, but it's certainly interesting that would be there in such a kind of a rural setting. But she goes out to search for more roots. He asks her to actually go out and search for more roots. And it says that he does this because he doesn't want her to be bored, essentially. So he gives her something to do. It's another thing that I feel like that's not something modern people would think of. I think that we would think of childcare as a type of bubble wrap. We sort of want to wrap kids and people that we think are just less capable than us in a type of like super security. but he gives her a job to do, and she does go out into the wild again to search for roots. And she comes across another little girl, and that little girl looks very similar to her, and it says possibly even more beautiful, you know, so take your, I'll let you decide who's more beautiful of these two little girls. But really interesting, like Eastern kind of setting in the stonework, lions and natural elements, fish, but a really interesting kind of vision here. And again, just packed with details, packed with variety. I mean, like tall stalks of grass and crooked limbs of trees, and just expertly placed in just the right area, right places. So another full page spread. I don't know what in the world is happening over here. Maybe it's civilization happening outside of the forest. There's like a group of like young people being taught by a musician over here. This is actually Saint Joseph, which we're told earlier. And picking flowers and just hanging out. So I guess I kind of know what it is because I know the story, but so the third day has come, and she has spent all 3 days with the other little girl and the old man, Saint Joseph, and his dog in the house. And she says, you know, she does want to go back to her mother, but she wants to come back and visit sometime. And he says, "Never fear, when this rose blooms, you will be with me again." So he gives her a rose and sends her on her way. And the other little girl takes her back to her mother. And, you know, I love this again. I mean, it's all the same, but it's not. It's like a beautiful dance between the background and the characters in the background and the setting. And I think I could just enjoy staring at this for a long time. Just the trees and the different planes of things, you know, a close-up and a background, and the variety of color too. They're really subtle. So kind of a purple darkness here and a depth, and then a faint blue, but also a warm kind of light. I think these are all probably colored inks, so probably watercolor and colored inks, because the lines are actually different colors, a variety of colors. But you see, you know, tight detail on her hair, and that's probably some pencil or a really fine brush. But more text. The angel, well, that little girl, if you hadn't known, was the angel. So the angel kind of comes into bodied form in the wilderness and is that little girl and her playmate. So the girl comes out after 3 days in the wilderness, and lo and behold, her old town is quite changed, but she recognizes her mother's house, and the mother, who is this quite frightful old woman here. I'm not sure why her eyes are closed. I wish they were not closed, but because that's the point of them seeing each other. The mother wanted to see her child before she died, and it says that she does, but her eyes are closed, unfortunately. But this has been 30 years, so she spent 3 days in the forest, but in reality it was actually 30 years, and she has come home as kind of the last blessing of her from God to her mother before her mother dies. And you know, I mean, poignance all over this whole image, like the moon and the sun together in the sky. It's like the totality of the cosmos, kind of like, it's not, again, you know, scientifically accurate that the moon and the sun would be in the same window of the sky, but it is emotionally poignant, and these like apples or fruit on the tree, you know, you've got grapes and fruit, and there's like a fullness of time kind of aspect. There's like the tilled village, and then there's sort of a more of an industrial type village kind of climbing into the distance that wasn't there before. And the ruins over here. There's a lot of like communication here that's not verbal. That is the end, but they actually both die together. It says, all evening they sat happily together. Then they went to bed calmly and cheerfully, and next morning the neighbors found them dead. They had fallen happily asleep, and between them lay Saint Joseph's rose in full bloom. So apparently, you know, they're gathered to God after a long separation. And, you know, I can tell why this was not a, you know, if it has any lasting power, it's because of Maurice's artwork and Wilhelm Grimm's name. You know, it isn't, you know, I can't say if it deserves to be here, but that story is as playful as I think you can possibly have without needing to drive home this like epic conclusion or a flip or something. I mean, there is a sort of a flip and a mystery at the end, from, you know, 3 days in the woods to 30 years absent. So, you know, but what that does to an audience, you know, what does that make me feel, or can we wrap our heads around it? Or it's something definitely to meditate on and think about. And I think for that worth, it's a great book. But would it fall in the rubric of great children's books today? You know, I doubt it, other than the beautiful artwork. But I love that it exists, and that there was enough commercial interest based on Grimm's name to get Maurice Sendak and the publishers to really put, I feel like all that they have and are into a work like this. So really cool find. I don't know, I got it for very cheap, I'm sure, sometime. I think Books of Wonder, actually, in New York City is where I bought it. A great institution there, and have a great selection. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it gives you some kind of just practical and also unpractical joy from Sendak's images. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.